All right, let's move on to the next section of this part two of Industrial Revolution. Now, here we're going to start off with some images. Not a whole lot really for you guys to write here. Um, just want you to take a look at these images as we go through them and notice whatever you can about the images. Okay, I'll point some things out as we go along. Notice in this one we have plenty of children at work. Okay, they're working on, this is a clothing mill. So they are weaving, this is a spindle, and they're using thread and yarn to make whatever it is. So lots of kids at work, young children at work that would otherwise be in school in modern times. Back then, they're hard at work day and into the night. Okay, we have a British town. We have a river here. And you can't really see them on either side, but the sewer lines for these homes and factories or whatever, they go right into the river. This is the same river that people boated on, the same river where people got their drinking and bathing water, and the same river that people would live next to. So, pretty gross. But that was life in an industrial town. Okay, we have old George here fishing along an industrial river. Probably not the healthiest of fish that he is catching, but that's all that was around. Notice all the factories in the background. Located close to rivers, because rivers sometimes provided sources of power, and sometimes they've just provided a cheap place to go and dump your waste. Okay, another picture of a river, industrial town that pops up along the river. Smokestack after smokestack after smokestack. This is what the skyline of most England cities looked like. An artist's rendering or image of what a British town would look like. Probably not too far off from reality. Okay, young children at work, working in a clothing factory. Notice they're barefoot, or at least this one is barefoot, and it would be very easy for him to catch his toes in some of the machinery. At the very least, probably gets bruised or cut. At the worst, loses a toe. Now, another thing that's never talked about is the cloth dust. All the dust in these factories that gets breathed in. Gets breathed in, it has nowhere else to go. It simply can become part of the person's body, and it will eventually lead to sicknesses and diseases. More children at work. He looks happy. Coal mining. These are the gents that usually had the roughest of all jobs and the worst of all deals. Very difficult work, very backbreaking. Injuries were common and easy to come by. Accidents were frequent. And though they were paid more than factory workers, lifespans were short. And so the pay usually wasn't worth it. Very cramped, very dirty, very risky. All right, so we get into a little class distinction now. We start to see what is truly a middle class start to pop up during the Industrial Revolution. Okay, now the middle class, they're a social class of skilled workers. These are people with skills who can go into a factory, go into a forge, and make things. They have certain skills that businesses are looking for. Sometimes even the middle class could be wealthy farmers. Okay, these are all people that had certain skills, and sometimes in the case of entrepreneurs, they simply had money to get businesses going. Then there's backlash against industrialization. People that were not on board with industrialization. They didn't like their jobs being replaced by machines. Okay, they didn't like having to be worked in cramped factories. Okay, and just an example of some of these people that rebelled against industrialization were Luddites. Okay, these were a group of people that actually went around to factories and started destroying machines out of fear and frustration that they were taking their jobs, which was true. The machines were replacing them. Also, riots were pretty common because of the bad conditions. Now, how about some of the positive effects of the industrialization? It wasn't all gloom and doom. Some good things were lots of jobs, plenty of jobs for workers. The wealth of the nation. Britain as a nation became enormously wealthy from all the industrialization, all the buying and the selling, all of the trading, everything. It all went into making Britain very wealthy, very powerful. Also, plenty of technological progress. Okay, for a time, Britain was the only one industrializing because they were the only ones that had a lot of this technology. So they enjoyed it while they had it. And it did eventually raise the standard of living. Many people who were before very, very poor or had no means of making their lives any better, they were finally starting to get some income. And so, yes, they were able to make their lives a little bit better. Some were even able to eventually move out of the city with better jobs and live better lives. And all of these things are still important today. Jobs, wealth, technological progress, raising standards of living, all things that people still go for today. All right, so that finishes off this section 2 of part 2 of Industrial Revolution. Okay, so let's get ready for section 3.